helicopter crash in the Hudson River and the extreme close call on the runway here in D.C.
Everybody wants to come and make a deal, and we're working with a lot of different countries, and it's all going to work out very well.
Stiff tariffs for China stick. The vow from Trump as Wall Street starts to seesaw and as inflation cools, tariff pressures mount. Why it may be a while before you notice a dip in essentials. This is the National News Desk, America's News Now. Good evening, I'm Dee Dee Gatton. We begin with breaking news out of New York City, where 6 people are now dead after their helicopter crashed into the Hudson River, killing everyone on board, according to police. The fire department said it got a report of a helicopter in the river this afternoon. According to ABC News, it was found upside down in the river when rescuers arrived at the scene. New York City's mayor says a pilot and a family of 2 adults and 3 children from Spain were on board. We will continue to track the latest on this developing story throughout the night. And the FAA is now investigating after 2 American airline plane wings collided today on the runway at Reagan National Airport in D.C. We were working to get that video for you, but we do know a few members of Congress were on board. There was a picture that was posted by Representative Nick LaLota, who said, thankfully, everyone was okay. This all comes after 67 people died in a mid-air collision at this airport in January. President Donald Trump's budget blueprint, including reduced federal spending and tax cuts for Americans, is one step closer to reality. The House of Representatives narrowly passed the Senate's budget resolution 216 to 214, allowing both chambers to begin the appropriations process of formalizing the proposed cuts for a budget for the president to sign.
Over the next 2 weeks, as members are in their districts during Easter, the committees will be working and leadership will be meeting between the House and Senate, working with President Trump on the details to start that process the day we get back so that we can deliver real wins for the American people.
The goal here for the president and congressional Republicans is to see up to a $1.5 trillion reduction in federal spending. Democrats warn that this will lead to the largest entitlement cut we have ever seen. Republicans say that American citizens won't have to see reductions to what they are owed.
Donald Trump and extreme MAGA Republicans are doing everything they can to tank our economy, drive us toward a recession, and gut the health care of the American people.
The Democrats, as I noted this morning, have said that we're going to gut Medicaid. It is not true. We're going to protect the benefits that everyone is legally entitled to.
While Medicare and other entitlements, including Social Security, could technically see top-line spending reductions, it is important to note here that these cuts would be coming from eliminating entitlements for non-legal residents and or fraudulent beneficiaries like deceased people the Department of Government Efficiency has identified through their audits. Both Speaker Johnson and Senate Majority Leader John Thune have said no cuts will be made to programs for American citizens. President Donald Trump's cabinet met in the White House today as the world is still adjusting to the president's tariff plans. The White House is clarifying that tariffs on China now total 145%. That includes the president's latest tariffs he says will reset global trade. And those tariffs from February aimed at stopping the flow of fentanyl into the U.S. National correspondent Atra Al-Nashar reports from the White House on what comes next.
The Trump trade roller coaster ride isn't over.
There'll be a transition cost and transition problems, but in the end, it's going to be a beautiful thing.
A sense of relief already wearing off 24 hours after President Trump surprised much of the world by announcing a 90-day pause on individualized double-digit tariffs on all trading partners except China.
Everybody wants to come and make a deal, and we're working with a lot of different countries.
Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent says more than 75 countries benefiting from the partial tariff pause have come to the table and confirms the president will be directly involved in negotiations. As for China, they say they're open to talks.
If the U.S. really wants to address issue through dialogue, it should take the attitude of equality, respect, and mutual benefit. And China firmly opposes and never accepts such bullying and hegemonic acts.
The Chinese embassy in the U.S. reiterating in this social media post Thursday, if the U.S. is bent on waging a trade war, China will fight to the end. In its latest retaliation, China taking aim at Hollywood and will limit the number of American movies shown in China.
I think I've heard of worse things.
Back here in the U.S., American business facing a great deal of uncertainty as tariffs on China, plus 10% worldwide tariffs, tariffs on steel, aluminum, and foreign autos are still in effect. Amazon CEO says shoppers should expect to shoulder the burden.
I'm guessing that that sellers will pass that cost on. Depending on which country you're in, you don't have 50% extra margin that you can play with.
Now, given how much the president boasted the rally on Wall Street Wednesday afternoon after his tariff pause, he was asked again today to weigh in on stocks wiping out much of those gains. Well, he punted that question to his Treasury Secretary, who basically said it was like taking 2 steps forward and 1 step back, and he said they're okay with that.
Yeah, a bit of a seesaw, as you know, Atra, on the stock market. The president was also pressed today on a timeline for reaching deals with trading partners. What did he say?
Well, really the biggest news there, Dee Dee, is that the president said he would not rule out extending this 90-day pause that he's put on all trading partners except for China. But the administration overall extremely reluctant to set expectations in terms of weeks or months for reaching actual deals, making, handshakes, signing on the dotted line with trading partners. But Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent says he hopes to start funneling conversations with trading partners to the president in the next week or so. But as for talks with China, there's no telling how long it could take to resolve the standoff or even start talks at a high level. And it's certainly reasonable to expect or at least prepare for the scenario of things getting worse before they get better.
Right. All right, live from Washington, D.C., Atra El-Nashar, thank you for all those updates. The first person, to sue President Trump over his tariffs says the policies are threatening the American dream. Florida resident Emily Lay, who owns an online stationery shop, claims the tariffs on China are unlawful and unconstitutional.
We're looking at anywhere from $830,000 to $1 million in tariffs in the next 12 months, and we can't survive that. It's catastrophic. I decided it was important for me to stand up and to speak up on behalf of other small businesses.
She says her company hasn't been able to find the infrastructure necessary to make products domestically. She's now waiting for a response from the president. Today, a Trump administration policy of deporting migrants to countries they have no connection to is under review. A federal judge in Massachusetts has extended an order he issued that essentially blocks this policy and is considering blocking it for even longer. A group of migrants with final removal orders filed a lawsuit claiming the policy threatens their safety. DOJ attorneys argue DHS works to ensure deported migrants won't be persecuted or tortured. This comes after the Justice Department dropped its criminal case against a Virginia man accused of being the East Coast leader of the MS-13 gang. The Trump administration may be trying to deport Henry Villatoro Santos without trying him. Typically, someone with this kind of accusation is prosecuted first. The defense says Santos must receive due process. The wife of Weezer bassist Scott Schreiner is in custody, accused of attempted murder. Police say they were looking for a hit-and-run suspect in a Los Angeles neighborhood Tuesday when they saw Jillian Schreiner with a gun. Officers shot her after she refused to drop the weapon, then pointed it at them. Schreiner was hospitalized with a non-life-threatening injury. The LAPD is investigating. Live to Lambeau Field in Green Bay, Wisconsin, where in just 2 weeks tonight at 8 p.m. the NFL draft will begin. While the city is preparing for the biggest off-season event on the football calendar, the National News Desk Savannah Wood is in Green Bay with more on how the city is getting ready to ensure the safety of the millions of people who come for the festivities.
Record crowds coming into an area will bring a greater chance for crime, specifically human trafficking. A Green Bay-based nonprofit is fighting back with training sessions to spread awareness.
We've been connecting with bars, hotels, gas stations, airports, casinos to really make sure no stone goes unturned on bringing awareness to this, what it looks like.
The group, Awaken Justice, received $20,000 from Brown County to address the issue. Half will be used for prevention.
The cup covers are great because we know date rape drugs are something that get passed around often. And so with our cup covers, it's a great awareness of the QR sticker you get on. You can see the common flags are indicators of red trafficking, sex trafficking. But then in addition to that, it is an extra protection for individuals, and it's a great preventative tool.
There is going to be a hotline for the draft that essentially you dial one number and that gets you direct to police services, domestic violence services, or human trafficking services.
When the draft begins, he says they'll focus on emergency services, with officers paying special attention in the draft footprint.
We are going to have people like out in the crowd, if you will, not only general citizens that we've already trained, but other law enforcement agencies.
We've partnered with agencies that can provide transportation out of state to certain programs. We've worked with agencies all over the state of Wisconsin because we know, yes, Brown County is the hosting city, but we're not the only city that's going to be affected.
Claus says internet-based exploitation is on the rise, especially with minors. She says, talk to your kids early and often so they know the warning signs.
And coming up, the major change happening in stores right now, some of us haven't seen in more than 5 years. Then, what most women are surprised to learn about perimenopause and what they can do to ease symptoms. Later, why Mexico is blaming American gun companies for letting weapons get into the hands of cartels. We'll be right back in 90 seconds. Inflation is easing again across the U.S. As for a second month in a row in March, it's now down from 2.8% in February to 2.4% in March, closer to the Fed's target year-over-year rate of 2%. This is the lowest inflation has been in 6 months, and for the first time in 5 years. The Consumer Price Index fell, meaning lower prices for you at home. The biggest factor in the drop, energy costs fell 2 points.
Of eggs, which is Easter. So from the beginning, I've said this is sort of the high price for retail.
Have conducted multiple water rescues while many residents have been stuck inside their.
I mean, it was right there. You could see it moving.
Flood stage for the river is 26 to the weekend. A Russian American is now free after a prisoner swap. Ksenia Karelina was exchanged for a Russian German man in a U.S. prison on smuggling charges. Karelina was arrested last year when she went to Russia to visit her family. She was convicted of treason in Russia, accused of donating $52 to a charity helping Ukraine. Experts testifying at a Senate Commerce hearing agree the U.S. should stop changing our clocks twice a year. But that's where the agreement ends. Transportation leaders point to added dangers on the road tied to standard time, while health experts cited studies warning against daylight saving time and its impact on mental and physical health.
But when we take a closer look at the implications of changing the clocks, its impact on our economy, our health, and our everyday lives, we can see that this practice is more than an annoyance.
We know that changing the clock disrupts sleep, which can lead to negative health outcomes. Several studies have noted issues with mood disturbances, increased hospital admissions, and even heart attacks and strokes.
According to a March Gallup poll, a majority of Americans would like to get rid of the time changes completely. 48% favored sticking with standard time with the whole year, and just 24% preferred daylight saving time the whole year. 19% want to stick with the biannual switch. New details. The death toll in the Dominican Republic nightclub roof collapse has risen to at least 218. Officials say no one has been found alive since Tuesday afternoon, but emergency crews are still at the scene searching for potential survivors and victims. More than 100 survivors were injured, and doctors warn about 24 patients were not in the clear, including 8 in critical condition. Over half of women don't know perimenopause symptoms can start in their 30s. That's according to a new survey from The Ohio State University. Symptoms can include hot flashes, joint pain, and mood changes, but one physician says it's different for each woman.
Sometimes the menstrual cycle changes can be the first sign. Other times people can present with mood changes, maybe temperature dysregulation, such as vasomotor symptoms, sleep disturbance, so it can widely vary.
She says perimenopause is defined as periods that fluctuate by at least 7 days for at least 10 months. A diet rich in whole foods, calcium, vitamin D, fiber, and protein can ease symptoms, and talking to your doctor is also recommended. We have reporters all across the country in your neighborhoods covering issues that matter to you. We're taking the pulse of America, and we start in Oregon with an effort to get rid of a wildfire risk map that property owners say has imposed unaffordable restrictions.
Lawmakers advancing the repeal of the state wildfire hazard map. The map, created by Senate Bill 762 in 2021 following the devastating 2020 wildfires, established high-risk wildfire areas across the state, impacting over 100,000 properties. Many rural Oregonians say they're unhappy with rising costs.
It made it almost impossible for them to sell their homes, and it made it much harder for them to hold on to insurance that they could afford.
State law says insurers cannot use the map to increase or decrease rates. One Jackson County commissioner says she has heard of some people losing their insurance, but doesn't know if there were extenuating circumstances.
I think insurances are concerned about their viability over the whole wildfire issue.
A new Ohio law will significantly affect gun owners' rights. Under this law, financial institutions can no longer track transactions at gun stores, and gun owners can no longer be required to purchase firearm liability insurance. Some say it's a victory for Second Amendment supporters.
Give people the ability to have that Second Amendment and purchase firearms comes with a lot. And so taking this out of the mix is really a headache that we were concerned about for the last couple years. Now knowing that going forward, that's something that we don't have to worry about.
But not everyone is happy with the law, including one Democratic lawmaker.
weapons come with inherent risk. The very purpose of insurance is to mitigate those risks, protecting individuals and families from the devastating financial and emotional toll of unintentional shootings.
Brian and his dog Boy were taking a late Monday night walk in the Table Mountain parking lot. Brian never saw the rattlesnake, but the dog did and was bitten in the mouth.
If Boy hadn't have been there and found the snake, it would have got Brian, and it would have been probably a huge, much bigger incident.
They rushed the dog to a Fresno vet, but decided not to have it treated. Kristen Yoakum says the vet wanted $6,000 up front before the procedure could start.
He's just now recovering at home, and we're doing the best we can.
Yoakum says the swelling has come down after giving the dog Benadryl and antibiotics.
Such a cute dog. Coming up next here, the groundbreaking lawsuit that pits Mexico against American gun companies now in front of the Supreme Court. We're back in 90 seconds. A groundbreaking legal case is being considered by the Supreme Court, one that pits the country of Mexico against a group of American gun makers and distributors. It's accusing those gun companies of knowingly allowing their weapons to flow into the hands of cartels. As the legal battle plays out, both sides say the stakes are higher than ever. Christine Frizzell reports.
Weapons of war, fired on city streets in Mexico.
They've been used to literally do battle with the Mexican military and Mexican law enforcement.
United States, a so-called Iron River.
And to stop that,
seeking $10 billion from 11 American gun makers and distributors, including Barrett and Smith & Wesson, accusing them of knowing their guns are trafficked into Mexico and making deliberate design, marketing, and distribution choices to grow that market, including selling to so-called straw buyers who purchase extremely powerful weapons with cash repeatedly.
most gun dealers just wouldn't sell to someone like that. But unfortunately, there's a small number of gun dealers who are happy to take the money.
The lawsuit claims it's big business for that small suit is trying to bankrupt America's legal firearms industry.
Do you think gun makers in the United States bear any responsibility for all these weapons getting into Mexico?
Legally, no.
Larry Keene is president of the National Shooting Sports Foundation, which is not being sued, but has been outspoken in challenging the lawsuit. Keene points to the Protection of Lawful Commerce in Arms Act, or PLACA, that protects firearms manufacturers and dealers from being held liable when crimes have been committed with their products.
The manufacturers are simply not legally responsible any more than Budweiser is responsible for drunk driving accidents, or bat manufacturers are responsible when somebody uses a bat to harm or injure somebody.
What's your response to that argument?
Absolutely not. I mean, they're very specific, serious allegations about the gun industry. The allegations are that the manufacturers have been told and know exactly how they are supplying the cartels. They've been told to stop, and they have refused in order to profit off the crime gun pipeline.
The Supreme Court is expected to issue a ruling sometime in June. For Spotlight on America, I'm Christine Frizzau.
Coming up, it's day one of the Masters. We'll take a look at who is topping the leaderboard as well as how the defending champion fared on the green today.